Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new deck profile. This time I'm bringing you guys some Spiral Paleozoic stun, I wouldn't really necessarily call it stun, I'll just say control build. So the main goal of our deck is to slow the game state as much as possible using control tools such as the best two Paleozoic trap cards as well as the one Dinomiscus and our searchable trap cards in the form of Spiral Battle and Spiral Power, to disrupt our opponent's place as much as possible, and then being able to just like smack them in the face with big dinosaurs and big dragons, along with our equip spells. Then we can do some nice little combos to not only have piercing but also deal a little bit of burn damage, which does help close out games. I will not lie, this card helps you close out games much faster than normally. So yeah, this is basically the deck. What I'm going to do something different, and instead of just talking about the deck, I'm actually going to show some replays that I gathered from using the deck, because I see that a lot of people ask me how to use this deck, or is this a competitive, or how to play the deck. Don't just post the profile, show some replays and stuff. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So this is basically the list. Feel free to make any changes. For the side deck, I'll go over it in the second half of the video after I finish the replay, so you guys can see why I'm playing the cards that I am in the side deck. So without further ado, let's go into the replays. So first duel against, I believe it was 60 card heroes. He was playing some 60 card hero deck, so he gets to go first. So I'm just gonna let him do his play. And if you guys are enjoying this format of video where I actually show some replays, let me know in the comments down below so I know to do more of these. And yeah, also leave a like and a comment suggesting some decks. So starting off, it's my turn. I go for Heatwave. My Fossil Dig gets Ash. That is not a problem, but because the Ash resolved, I get my token and I get a search off Pacifist. So here I'm just trying to bait out the Deco Talker as much as possible so that it doesn't have the attack boost and it doesn't have Cold Links and it doesn't give him the extra zones. So here I go for Duality, try to fish for something, obviously get that card of Demise, activate Terraforming, just to make sure I have the least amount of cards in my hand as possible, and then I use Spiral Power to once again target the Deco Talker, so he's forced to negate it. So here he goes for normal summons Vion and then gets a Malicious Engrave, and then he makes a Proxy Dragon as well as a, he has a Malicious, so he's trying really hard to pop off and make his board and stuff, so that's pretty nice. So I get the lucky top deck Champion's Vigilance, and you'll see why, using Rage of Karyushi, a card that I really like, and I'll show you guys why this card is so good, but it unfortunately does get negated by the Deco Talker. So here I can just beat his Deco Talker, and then I banish the Spiral Battle from the graveyard to equip all my current equip spells to a monster. He goes for the Raigeki, and Champion's Vigilance coming in clutch to make sure my monsters do not get destroyed, but I still get a search because the token was destroyed. Well, the token, I didn't control a token and my opponent activated Infect. So here I have this Phantasm Spell Crash, which gives me piercing. His monster has 0 defense. It was going to be pretty much GG. My opponent couldn't really do anything, although I did have 2 Terraforming Set and a Metaverse. A lot of my back row was just bluffing. The second duel is against, it's a banished dot deck. Very interesting, and he was playing Dark Magician, so here he has a pretty decent lock of cards through Graveyard Ascent. He has the Moon Mirror Shield, good stuff overall, but I'm just able to pop his monster and good to go. Also his Moon Mirror Shield activates, which gives me a token of Pacifist, and I can just grip and crash and just deal a lot of damage, bring out my Spiral Dragon, and then equip everything to it. And then pop the Soul Absorption, very important because this was banished. The Phantasm Spiral Battle was banished, right? So he would have gotten an extra 500 life points, and if I didn't banish it, he would have lived an extra 10, so very important that I pop that. So this next duel is against Cubics. Cubics, you have to know the deck so you don't lose to it, so good thing that I've played Cubics quite a whole lot, so I pretty much know how to beat the deck. In this guy's build, he was playing Storm Mirror Force, which is something I don't usually recommend, but it might work out for him. So he gets a nice little search of Foolish Burial Goods into Karma, sets up the Doozer, has the Unification, doesn't really extend, doesn't really do a whole lot, but, you know, I just make my plays essentially, trying to make sure he doesn't have a board. Unification was brought out, good thing that I made him have the Unification so he couldn't do any link plays, and here I'm just using the power of Crash. That gives my monsters piercing to deal as much piercing damage as possible, and then basically just try to finish the game through that. Unfortunately, a Spiral Grip did not trigger because the monster was not destroyed, so I was not able to deal that last 1000 battle damage, but it's all good. So here he activates power to negate the effect of the Dark Cubic Lock, so he couldn't attack twice, otherwise I would be very dead. Now it's just a matter of, can I beat his India Doom, which I can, because by banishing the Spiral Power, I can equip an equip spell from the graveyard to a monster that I control, so that way I can just deal some piercing damage and win the game from there. This next duel is against Dark Magician. Dark Magician actually gives this deck a surprisingly good run. Dark Magician is very good in slower matchups just because they're able to keep up by just like one card combos and stuff, so it can be very challenging to fight against a Dark Magician, especially in a 2 out of 3 scenario, because they can use the Dark Magician circle to banish your pacifist. So very important how you play things like Sea Stealth Attack. So here my opponent is popping off, and for some reason he made Deco Talker, right? Now I don't necessarily agree with that play, but it's whatever. Good thing for me that he doesn't have the Deco Talker anymore, and here I made a Star Boy. This is because even though I did lose some damage in terms of like not having my token, the Star Boy can flow into something if it gets destroyed, and it clears it basically means so I don't have a token, so I can special summon another token and get a search. So that's why Star Boy is very, very good to have in your deck, so you can get that token every turn. So here I Spiral Battle his face down, which is Eternal Soul, and then I activate all Unites from the graveyard, and he basically scoops. If you can just if you can just tone their plays down and make it so that they have the least amount of resources possible, you should have an easy win. So here, a lot of these replays, I'm just lucky enough to not top deck, but open up with Card of Demise, and Card of Demise is really, really good. So I get a token and I get a search, which is pretty good, but all my zones are occupied, so I need to use something before I can use the Spiral Battle in my hand. My opponent has a Swamp King, and yeah, that's basically, it was kind of weird that he didn't use Thrive for Patchwork, but you know what you're gonna do, you're just gonna OTK him. So this is like a simple OTK that you can do with just the 2 equip spells and like a token, being able to bring out both dragons, which they can be brought out from hand, deck, or grave. Very, very good. Infernoids, very much like Cubics. If you've played a deck or you know how to play against the deck, you should have a pretty easy time playing against it. Luckily for me, my opponent was playing the Lair of Darkness version, but he did not open the annoying Lair of Darkness field spell. So his plays were pretty standard. So here I battle his Decatron, even though he gets to send. His Decatron is not on the field, so he's not able to negate anything. And then Deviatis tries to pop my back row, I believe. Good thing I had the Spiral Power to negate it. So that's why, if you know what you're playing against, you can search for the appropriate card. So here, in this particular version, I was actually using Cabazols as well as Megalo Smasher, just so I could have more normal monsters, but eventually I decided to cut them down because just the 3 Megalo Smasher and 3 Fossil Lig was plenty of normal summon access. So this final duel is against Raid Raptors. As you can see, not a lot of these decks are the most competitive things, but I feel like the decks that are not competitive are the best test against the deck, just because it really shows like all the things that your deck is able to do. So here, unfortunately, I did not open the field spell, so the beginning of this match was pretty awkward, but my game plan was simple, not letting him have access to a good Xyz monster. You know, Raid Raptors have amazing cards like Revolution Falcon, Blaze Phoenix, Satellite Cannon, Ultimate Falcon, those really annoying, really strong cards. So I'm pretty sure I knew about the booster Strix. Well, at one point, I'm pretty sure my opponent gives me Jizukiru, and then he searches out booster Strix, something along those lines. But I know he has the booster Strix at one point, so I have to be careful to not attack into him. So he goes for the Fuzzy, Nest, and then brings out Tribulanus. And he's able to send something, and Mimicry gives him access to Nest. Nest searches out Booster Strix. So this is why I did not want to attack with Jizukiru, because I knew he had the Booster Strix, and I did not want to destroy my own monsters. So I normal summon Smasher. So here he goes for last Strix. I TT, so he does not have any monsters, although he did get a Fuzzy Search. That was pretty okay. And then Terraforming into Pacifist. Now this is when the real game begins, because my field spell is activated, and unless he has the way to deal with it, he's most likely going to lose, because I'm just able to get that many resources out on the field, and my body is always going to be really strong. So I immediately Spiral Battle his Fuzzy, because he was the last Fuzzy he had, so now he just has a Vanishing Lanius, so he activates the Readiness, and I just end turn, because like I said, I know he has the booster strike, so he normal summons booster strikes, and then he's able to get a search and makes Revolution Falcon air raid, so I spiral power his air raid, so its effect is negated, but then he uses Skip Force, and I negate it with Champion's Vigilance. And yeah, he's trying to get some life points maybe, and develop his field. So because his monster was destroyed, my Spiral Grip triggers, and I'm able to special summon out the Spiral Dragon, which was very, very clutch. I think he misplayed, at least in my eyes, because by doing that, he basically lost the game, since I was able to bring out my Spiral Dragon. And because I was able to bring out my Spiral Dragon, I was able to get a search of the field spell, so that way I can search for a Spiral power. That way I can negate his Revolution Falcon when it tries to attack. So that's exactly what I do. His Revolution Falcon is negated and gets destroyed. So my opponent does not have a lot of resources, so I can easily Spiral Battle his monster and just attack with the token, Crash activates, and yeah, he scoops from there. So that was basically the deck. Now, the version that I'm currently using here is very different to the version that you guys saw, although there were some duels where I was using the Paleozoics. Now, I believe this current build that I'm playing is the best build for the deck, and it's the build that gives you the most amount of plays. Just because a lot of the cards that you are playing are very good standalone cards that are very universal in a lot of matchups, but there are some cards that you want to side in that are very strong against specific matchups. Or card, like, I would call the, like, anime decks where they can do, like, this, like, one card comeback and just try to, like, OTK you. That's where things like Champion's Vigilance and Solemn Judgment come in very, very clutch. So, I believe those cards are more side deck oriented cards, as well as, like, the Torrential Tribute, because it's only good in certain matchups. Like you saw against the Raid Raptors, this card was very, very good, very efficient, being a board wipe on their turn, but not so good when I'm playing against things that don't special summon a whole lot. So, yeah. For the main deck, I'm playing 2 Spiral Dragon, 3 Megal Smasher, 3 Fossil Dig, 3 Card of Demise, 3 Terraforming, 3 Duality, 2 Crash, 2 Grip, 1 Pacifist, 3 Pacifist, the Phantasm City. The whole name on is sometimes I get it confused, and then 3 Spiral Battle, 3 Oleanoids, very, very good. I believe the best Paleozoic in my opinion. 1 Dino-Miscus, because it's pretty good removal if we need it. 3 Power. Power is very underrated, and I really like this card just because it's so useful. The Effect Veiler plus Attack Negation makes it so that if they try to attack into your token, more often than not your token is going to win the battle if the monster is below like 2,900 or something. And then Paleozoic Canadian. This card is a card that I find myself siding out a lot of the times because a Book of Moon is good in certain scenarios, but it isn't good like all the time. So Canadian is a card that is very easily sideable. So you can side for more important things. And then Sea Stealth Attack. This card I didn't get to use a whole lot in the replays, but after I started playing this card actually comes up more often than not, because if your opponent knows what they are playing against, they can very easily just blow up your field spell, and that's where Sea Stealth Attack comes in very, very clutch, since you're able to bring back the field spell from the graveyard to the field, and then you have the other 2 bonuses. So this is basically a better version of Metaverse, so I recommend definitely playing Sea Stealth Attack over Metaverse, just because, in my opinion, it's a better Metaverse. Now for the extra deck, you don't really need an extra deck other than, I would say, Mistar Boys. As you saw, I pretty much never went into the extra deck other than Mistar Boy. Mistar Boy is the only card that you need in the extra deck. The other stuff is just bonus. It's not even the icing on the cake. It's just the cherry on top. I would consider things like Call of Demise the icing on the cake, because the main deck is the cake. It's very cheap, very accessible to like new budget players, and then Call of Demise is the icing on the cake. You know, it's like the nice little layer of the chocolate icing, right? This makes the deck so much better. And the extra deck is literally that cherry, just a little bonus that you can play if you have these cards, but if you don't, they don't really matter because the deck just doesn't go into the extra deck that much. And then for the side deck is just generally good cards, but I do want to put emphasis on this card called Rage of the Karyushin. This card is very, very cheap and pretty much a very good card to use if you are playing a deck that uses Yuumi. So this is because if Yuumi is on the field, the target monsters your opponent controls up to the number of monsters you control whose original level is 5 or higher, destroy them, and if you do, zones they were in cannot be used until the end of the next turn. had 1% effect. So what does this mean? Well, if you control either a Spiral Dragon or the token that you get off passive phase of Phantasm City, you basically have access to a free pop on your opponent's turn, because this is a quick play, and also it stops them from using that zone. So if your opponent is playing as a deck that uses the Link mechanic a lot, or just generally like any extra deck mechanic, the first monster they summon, you use Rage of the Karyushin on it, and then they cannot use that zone. So basically, if they are playing an extra deck reliant deck, they are locked out of the extra deck for that turn, and that can be a lot of times more than enough to win you games. So yeah, Rage of the Karyushin is a very, very good card, but I would say it's a more side deck oriented card, because it's only good in certain matchups. There are matchups where this card is really, really good, but there are matchups where this card isn't so good. But for that reason, I'm playing in a side deck. So what you could easily do is side out the Canadians for Rage of the Karyushin, and there you go. You got a nice easy side. Other side deck cards include board wipes, things like Dark Hole Raigeki. The deck doesn't have a problem with big boards, but just having access to these side deck to these board wipes going second, because if your opponent knows what deck you're playing, and if you go first and you win the first round, then obviously they're going to make you go second, just because they don't expect you to have a really strong turn like you do going first. So yeah, board wipes are just really good. And then you have cards like Heatwave. Now Heatwave, a lot of people might be surprised why I'm playing this card in the side, but there's a very rational reason why. So Heatwave is a card that you can only use at the start of your main phase 1, basically meaning that it has to be the first card you play at the beginning of the turn, right? So this card is really bad because it doesn't have a lot of synergy with Card of Demise. What do I mean by this? Well, Card of Demise allows you to draw 3 cards, but if you play Card of Demise, and if you draw into Heatwave, it's basically a dead card. The card cannot be used in the graveyard, the card has to be the first card that you activate in the beginning of your main phase 1, and your draws from Card of Demise are just a lot less good. Drawing things like the Phantasm Spiral Dragon off Card of Demise isn't the worst, because this card can be summoned from the graveyard, so if it comes to worst, you can always use this card from the graveyard, and you know, things like the Paleozoics can also be activated from the graveyard in case you have to discard them. So yeah, that's basically my 2 cents on Heatwave. Very good side deck card, but not so good in the main deck. If Card of Demise for some reason gets hit, then obviously I think this is the most easy card to replace in the deck. You can just like get rid of Card of Demise and replace them with Heatwave or Rage of the Karyushin. Other cards that I want to play in the side deck are things like Phantasm Spiral Wave. This is a pretty good hand control card. Basically, at the end of the battle phase, if a monster you controlled battled, you can then get a free special summon. It's less good because it's not as proactive, it's more oriented to the end of the battle phase, but you're able to discard a card your opponent controls from their hand, so that's always pretty nice. And also it protects the monster from being destroyed the first time by battle, so it gives you some battle protection. If the card also protected it from things like, let's say, card effects, then this card would be very, very good. Just giving protection for your token and stuff is really valuable, but unfortunately, it only protects you by battle, so one copy in the side should not hurt you too much. And then, like I said, things like Torrential Tribute, very good in specific matchups, but not so good in other matchups, so a card I would much rather play in the side, and as well as our Solemn type cards. I don't particularly like playing Solemns in the main deck, just because they are very, like, one-dimensional. I mean, like, on paper, yes, they are very good. You play them, you negate something, that's it, right? But they don't really do anything else. Champion's Vigilance is like a Solemn that doesn't cost life points, but they are Solemn Judgments, and we all know how good Solemn Judgment is, right? So even if you don't want to play the Torrential Tribute and you just want to play the third Champion's Vigilance, Spiral Wave or one of the board wipes, and just play the third Champion's Vigilance, feel free to do so. So just having Champion's Vigilance is really strong because it's an Omni Negate, negates anything. So really, really good cards, but good cards in the side. So yeah, that's basically the entire deck. As you can see, the extra deck, like I said, I'm not going to go over it too much because you don't need it, but Mustang Boy is your best extra deck card. And yeah, that's basically the deck. If you guys, once again, did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and let me know down below if you prefer this type of video. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.